Hi, I'm Janine, and my daughter Jessica and I own Poppies and Posies Photography and Props by Posies, where we make and sell newborn and sitter props for photographers and vendors. So we are so glad you're here. That means that you purchased the Reagan Sitter Romper. And this is what we're going to be making today. If you are not a part of our Facebook group, be sure to join our VIP group. It's Props By Posies Pattern VIP group. And it's a super great Facebook group where we give support and advice, and we get inspiration from each other, and it's a great group, so be sure you join that. Also, we have a page on our website that's called Inspirations, and it's the things that our Facebook group VIP people have made with our patterns, and it gives you such a great idea of things that can be made, and fabric to use and little tweaks to make in the patterns. It's awesome also, so make sure you check that out. That's at just propsbyposies.com. And let's get started. So what you're going to need for this sitter romper is you're going to need, I usually upcycle for this and the newborn style of this one, or the newborn of the same thing. It's called the Clara. I did not upcycle. I just used fabric that I had on hand, and the reason is this ruffle on the romper takes up a big square of fabric to make. And so I like them the same. You can do like a lace one, you can do a different one if you want to, but I just use fabric that I've had on hand. So you'll need like a 19 by 19 square piece of fabric. And it can be either the same fabric you're going to make the bodice out of, or it can be lace or different or coordinating, whatever you want. And then you'll need about if you're just going to do just the bodice only, you'll only need like a quarter of a yard. So a fourth of a yard is all you'll need of fabric. Now if you're upcycling, you'll need like a large, probably a large shirt or sweater, and then you can do this in a coordinating. I doubt you'll get everything out of the same thing unless you have a large sweater or something, because of the square on this. So excuse our dog that's barking. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. You will need some elastic. Oh, please stop it. You'll need some elastic, some scissors. I have my Bodkin Threader here that I use to thread through my elastic, but if you don't have a threader, you'll just need a safety pin. And then Wonder Tape, which I will talk about a little bit more detail later. This is totally optional, but it's very handy, and you will want it, I promise, if you don't have a serger. And then you'll need the pattern printed out. When the pattern prints out, it is going to be on 4 pages, and this is the quick instructions on how to get it printed out correctly. And then you will just go ahead and just butt these up right next to each other. There will be a little break there in the solid line. Just ignore that. That's supposed to be there. Go ahead and just tape it and then cut it all out. And then the 4th piece is the collar, the ruffle collar. So you will need that, and you will need it cut out, so it will look like this once it's cut out. And then we're ready to go. So let's hop on over to the fabric. And I'm going to put this one aside. We'll do this one last. That's for the collar. This is my, this is just for the bodice. So as you can see, it just needs to be able to be folded on the, actually I lied, you'll probably need about, I said a quarter, but I was forgetting that it was folded over. So you're going to need about half a yard probably of fabric. So you are going to fold, I have my fabric folded in half. So I have it like this, fold it in half, and I'm going to get both of these onto just this amount of fabric. So it's really, it doesn't take very much fabric at all. I'm going to straighten that out. Make sure you don't have any wrinkles underneath or anything, because when you're cutting it will mess that up a little bit. And because I want to cut mine all out at once, this is to cut on the fold. So you can either cut, pin this down and then cut it out, and then bring it up here and pin it again and cut another one out. I like to do mine all at the same time so they match exactly, and I'm lazy, so I like to do it all at once. So I'm just going to fold over my fabric again, so I have 2 folds. I'm going to cut. The trick is getting those folds matched up really well, so just make sure you get those matched up pretty well, and then I'm gonna shake. Make sure that there's no wrinkles or anything, okay? And it's still not quite, okay, there we go. And then there's a wrinkle underneath, so. Okay, got it. So we are going to go ahead and just pin this on, right? Cut on the fold. So I have two folded edges here, so I can get both of mine out, cut out at the same time, okay? So I will go ahead and get this pinned on, grab my pins, and that's good. I'm gonna start right in the middle there. And then, and when you're pinning, you want to make sure that the fabric underneath is that it's straight and not bunched up or anything. One on the leg, and then I'm going to come over here and do the top here. Get a couple down here. You will want to use a 4-way stretch fabric. That makes for the best fit on most sitters. This is for between 9 and 12 to 18 months. I mean, it's varied. It depends on the baby, of course. The one that we tried on was 9 months old, but it was 23 pounds. So it's really more by pound, I would say. Grab my scissors and let's get this cut out. So this is the two bodices. I'm cutting it at the same time. So much pressure putting out on camera. Okay, there's the bodice. Super easy and straightforward. And so now when you open that up, you will have the two bodices that you'll have. And that was super fast. So that's the other thing, is it speeds things up a little bit. So you have both of your bodices. They're exactly the same, the front and the back. So you will have two of those. You will find, if you are used to making newborn outfits, you will find that these look ginormous. We always joke that it looks like it would fit Jessica. So it's big. Now I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to show you how we do the, if you haven't done the newborn style one, this is will be new to you. So I have my my square fabric. Okay, it's just one big square fabric, kind of square. And then I'm just folding it in half, making sure there's no wrinkles. And then I'm just going to fold it in half again. So I'm going to have two folded edges on one side, and I'm going to have one folded edge on this side. And there, it does tend to want to wrinkle there, so I just like to smooth that out so there's not a, will make it look weird if you don't. Okay, so I have a raw edges, folded edges, folded edges. So I'm going to take this pattern piece and I'm going to place it on the folded edges. Okay, so my straight edges are right here, and they're not going to be touched. I'm going to go ahead and pin this on to the folded sides. And get those sides pinned down, and then I'm just going to do like one in the centers. I'll do one here and then maybe two on the bottom because it's a little bit wider. And then you may want to also do a double check and make sure that the fabric on the back side is not bunched. See how that's kind of a little bit bunched? I want to pull that down, make sure it's not. Okay, we'll turn that back over. It looks good. And we'll just cut that out real fast. And then this bottom part. Almost there. All right. Okay, so now for the ruffle, you will have a full gigantic circle. There's the half circle. There's the whole circle. Okay, so this is what's going to make the ruffle. So, you know, here's half of it. Let's just pretend we have half, and I'll kind of show you why it makes that ruffle so cute instead of just if you were to do it just a strip, is it gives it a little bit more of the contouring. So if you have this, you know, circle, we're going to sew it on like this, and so you'll get that extra ruffling here. Okay, so that's how you do that. And you'll see that come together when we're done. So before I head downstairs to my sewing machine where we have that set up, I'm going to go ahead and get some things taped. Now, I told you that I use Wonder Tape. This is a double-sided tape, and it has paper on one side and sticky on that side, but when you peel off the paper, it's sticky on both sides. This is it's a stabilizer. It works as a stabilizer. So it helps the fabric, especially when you're dealing with knits. They tend to ripple and grow as you sew. So this kind of holds it in place. It takes the place of pinning, which I love, and it dissolves once it gets wet. So once it gets wet, it's not there anymore, but then you have a beautifully sewn outfit. If you have a serger, that's really what the serger does. It kind of does stabilize your fabric, so you really don't need it if you're serging. This says that it doesn't gum up your machine. It doesn't. I've never had it gum up my machine, but it does do a kind of a film on it that I just have to, I get off with like something that dissolves gummy stuff, like a Goo Gone or something like that. So lighter fluid or whatever. I do that every once in a while because it does leave that little film every once in a while after you use it for a long period of time. So I'm going to start by just turning my fabric over. I'm going to hem the legs and the arms first, and then I'll hem the bottom of the circle as well. So I'm going to take this tape. Now, a trick that I've learned, and I have said this in some other tutorials, so if you've already heard it, that's fine. I place it on the leg, right on the very edge, and then when you get to the end, if you tear it, rip it, it's so much easier to get off because it leaves a little trail of the tape, and you can just pull it right off. It's fabulous. Okay, so then I have the double-sided stickiness there, and because this is a quarter inch wide, I use it as my guide to turn it over and hem. So it's going to be hemmed a 1/4 inch, and I know that because it's the tape. It tells me so. I love that. So I can do that to both legs. I'm going to come up and do this arm. And then I'll get started on the collar as well. Same thing, so you're gonna come up on the arm. This is just really an armpit. It's not really an armhole because we're gonna have the ruffle be the other part of the arm. And by ripping it, you can then pull it off super easy again and fold over a 1/4 inch. Okay, whoopsie, and that's a little bit bigger, so there we go. Okay, so there we go. That's turned. I'll do the other side, and I'll also do this one as well. I just won't make you watch. And then on this circle, I'm going to turn it so that I have the wrong side facing up, and I will go along the whole entire edge here. This is just to finish it. Now, if you're using a lace and you don't think it needs to be finished or you don't want to finish it, you don't have to. I just like mine to look finished. I'll show you what I mean here. So on this one that I've done already, I don't know if you can, how well you can see, but I'll show you right here. So I have finished it. I've put a hem on it and finished it, so it just has a little more finished look. But that's just what I like. If I'm using lace, I probably wouldn't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around this huge circle with this, and it will make it so much nicer. Okay, and I will come back. Once I have all this done, I'll come back and meet you down at the sewing machine. Okay, so we're down at the sewing machine, and I am going to go ahead and finish the legs. So I have the leg, you know, turned up. I'm hemming it, and I'm going to zigzag it. I usually zigzag just because of the stretch value. It gives it a little bit more leeway, so you're not popping stitches if you do the zigzag. So I'm going to go ahead and zigzag those legs. I usually keep my fabric. I try to keep the edge of this fabric just right in the middle between this and the line, between the inside of that foot and then the line there, just to keep it right on the edge. I'm having a hard time picking up my threads here. So I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit. I'm going to back stitch just to secure that stitch and then be off. Okay, so this is the leg. And I do this to all the pieces, all the legs there. And then I go up and do it to the armpits as well. And the same thing, I'm going to zigzag. And I usually pull my threads back to get started, because when you're dealing with knit fabric, sometimes it wants to just sit there, especially with the tape on there. So sometimes it just helps to kind of pull it along, get it started. And then once you do, it's fine to go on its own. It's just that getting started point where you don't have anything to pull on the other end. So I like to pull my strings here. And back stitch. And then go. Okay, so I've got all of my legs and all of my armholes all hemmed up. I did some before I came on camera, so it wouldn't take so long. So I will show you. There we go. We've got the finished leg there, finished arm, and I've done it to all the sides there. So that's finished. This is finished. And I did the same thing on the other one. So they're all ready to go. They're all finished. And I'm going to go ahead and start on the collar. So grab your collar, and as you can see, I did the same thing to the collar. I put the tape on the edge, on the outside edge, and then folded it up to get the hem. So then I can just start sewing that. And on this one, actually, I'm going to do a straight stitch because I want it to look nice and finished. This does not have to stretch because it's going to have elastic in it and it's already rippled. So I don't need to worry about popping stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and straight stitch on that, and I'm going to straight stitch just right along the edge of this raw piece. Okay, so I'm going to back stitch a little bit, and then I'm just gonna, it's kind of hard to keep it where you want it, but I'm gonna try and go all the way around. Okay, so I have that done, got that finished, and it looks nice, and the edge looks nice and finished here. And I'm just going to put that aside, and we are going to sew the bodice of the romper together. So with the right side facing up, you're going to take some tape and tape along the sides here. And we're going to tape along the side, each side, and then also we're going to do the crotch as well. Okay, so right along the edge. And then make sure you rip it. Make sure it's on there real good. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. You only need to do it to one of the romper pieces, because we're going to put the other one right on top, and that's what's going to seal it there. Okay, and then along the crotch as well. Just the edge here. Okay, let's start up here, and we'll take off that tape on the one edge. And this is the top, this is the bottom. So do the same for this one. And then we're going to turn it facing down. So right sides together, okay? And I like to come up and match the armpits here, match up the end. And then I'm going to come down here, match up the legs. And then I'm going to match up everything else in between. If you're lucky, you can just kind of flip it like that, and it pretty much goes right into place. But every once in a while, you'll get a spot that's not quite where you want it. So I'm just going to work it so that, there we go. Goes right up to that edge. And then just press it down, make sure that it's press down really nice and neatly. Same with the crotch. Just match up both sides first, both edges, and then, why is that not matching up? Oh, not the wrong edge, oh my word. Okay, scared me for a minute. I just didn't have the right edge here. So that edge and then this edge. And I want to make sure they match up real well. Just right to the edge there. I have a little extra tape that's kind of throwing us off. Let's cut that. Okay, and then match that up. Sometimes it just kind of, this one it looks like the tape, I gotta pull this up a little bit. See how it has that little loop, that little loopy thing? So we're just gonna pull that apart and redo it. Just gonna kind of stretch that. That tape is, it's really nice because that tape does stretch a little bit. So even if you're off a little bit, you can kind of just stretch that fabric just a smidge and it will line right up. So, okay, so we've got the edges together. And just pull that apart again, get that lined up. Okay, that's how that's lined up, that's the crotch. And our last one is this edge, and then we will go ahead and zigzag them into place. And the bodice will be sewn together. So once again, I'm gonna meet the leg edges. My word, just like that. And then we'll come up and do this edge. And then everything in between. And once again, I have this little piece that is not flat. I should have checked that before I can't peel it apart now. There we go. And a little part that just had a little bunch on it. Okay, now. All right, now we're gonna get the edges. Okay. Once again, I'm just gonna pull just a smidge to make it so that there's not a little pucker. Okay, so that's done, and if you have any puckers or anything, make sure you just get those straightened out. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and zigzag those closed, and I will start with this side. Doesn't matter where you start, but I'm gonna zigzag. So yeah, switch it back to zigzag here, and I'm gonna back stitch, and I'm using a, why is that not? Oh, I did zigzag. I'm going to use about 1/4 inch seam allowance here as well. So I just have my fabric just right up against the edge of my foot there. That's kind of my guide that I try to. Okay, and it's kind of starting to pucker a little bit, so I'm just going to lift and smooth out. Okay, and when I do that, I put my needle in the down position, so that it doesn't, my fabric doesn't get away from me. And I bet, I need to lift that up a little bit. Sometimes also when the materials tends to pucker and give you a problem, sometimes the foot is down, that's down too low, so it causes it to do that. So I just raise my foot just a smidge, see if that might help. Stitching all the way down to the leg here. And then I'm going to back stitch once I get, sometimes it needs a little bit of help there. Back stitch. Okay, got that one done. And then we will do the other side, and then the crotch, and that will be all sewn together. Look at that extra tape there. All right, same thing, zigzag, and we're gonna do the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to back stitch, maybe. This fabric is really wants to pucker for some reason. I've never sewn with this fabric before, so it's kind of a little interesting, but back stitch when you get to the end, secure that. Okay, and then the crotch, and we are done sewing it together. Same thing on the crotch, just a quick zigzag, 1/4 inch also. And then back stitch. Secure that, and we're done. So I'll show you what that looks like, having the bodice done. We will turn it right side out. Okay, so that is what it looks like right now. Okay, so we are almost done. All we have to do is the collar now, and then we're done. So that was really simple, really easy, right? So let's go ahead and do the collar. So what I do is I leave it like this, and I pull this. Actually, you might want to look at, if you have a pattern like this, you might want to look and see. Actually, it doesn't matter which is the front and the back because they're the same, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and pull down one of the sides here. I was going to say you might want to pick your front, but you really don't have to because they're both the same. So I'm going to pull this down a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tape on the wrong side of the fabric of the romper to the right side of the fabric on the collar. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now, what we're going to need to do too is what I did on the, I guess it really doesn't matter now that I think about it, but what I did on the other one is just to find the middle and then find the middle, but it doesn't really matter because it's a circle. So, right? I think that's correct. So what I'm going to do is I am going to place some tape right along this edge that I folded down of the romper on the top edge, but on the wrong side of the fabric. And I'm just going to go right along that edge. Okay, and I'm going to tear it. Make sure it's pressed down real good. And then, okay, we're going to come up on here. And we're going to just match up the edge. So what you're going to want to do is just match it up right in the middle, you know, where of the romper part. And then you just work around making sure that you match up the edges. Okay, so I got that edge done. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to finish this edge. Yep, I have. Good, okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do the other side as well. So we have this one totally solid. And then I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip my romper so that I have the other unfinished edge here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a strip of tape along this edge. And you can see how straight I didn't cut when you put the tape on. Okay, make sure that's on. And then what you're going to want to do here is you will want to make sure that you have it kind of centered because you want the same amount on each arm. So what I'm going to do is just kind of fold this in half and make sure that we have the same amount, you know, make sure that it's kind of centered there. Okay. So this folded in half, and since it's taped down on the other side, we know that that's going to be right. So, okay, so I'm going to take this tape off. It's funny how you can do two tutorials on close to the same pattern and do it a little bit different, but okay, same thing. I'm just going to match up that edge, continue it. Okay, so I got that, and then I'm going to come over on this side and do the same thing. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and sew that on, and then this will flip over like this, and that will be how it will look. So we will stick that back in. This is what it's going to look like when you have it ready to sew. And I like to sew with the ruffle. Okay, I'm going to explain this a little bit better than I did on the other one. So I like to sew it with the ruffle facing up. So I'm going to do the back side first, and then I'll flip it and do this side, because I like to see this ruffle because there's more material. I need to make sure it's flat and smooth, and that's why I do it that way. You can do whatever works best for you. You can flip it around so you can kind of see what you're catching. And I'm going to start right here where the body starts. And I have a little bit extra tape. Let's cut that so we don't get confused. So I'm going to start right here where the tape is and then go all the way around. Now something different that I'm going to do that I didn't do in the other one is I start and stopped at the bodice edges, and I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to just do one continuous circle and see how that works out, just because I want to try it and see. So I'm starting right there where the bodice starts, and I'm going to straight stitch. Once again, it's not going to matter about breaking any stitches or anything, because popping any stitches, because it's going to have elastic, so it's not going to need to stretch except with the elastic. Okay, so this one I'm going to go, this one I'm going to do about a half inch, and I hope that I don't have my, actually I'm going to do 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to live on the edge and do 5/8 of an inch this time. So I'm going to straight stitch, and I'm gonna or zigzag. I'm going to go a little bit back stitch and then forward. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just going to make sure that this fabric isn't, that it's laying flat, nice and flat. And I'm going to sew all the way around. See how that kind of wants to, so I'm going to kind of just pay close attention to that, make sure it stays smooth. And if it doesn't, it's really not super big deal, because it's going to be gathered anyway, but I just kind of like to have it as smooth as possible. So okay, making sure this is all nice and smooth as I go. And here I'm coming to the end. Now what I did on the other tutorial, on the infant one, is I start and stopped right here. I stopped, right here, and then I just started again where it started again. This time I'm just going to go ahead and sew all the way around. So this will just have a seam, and that will kind of help me, I think, guide it to lay over a little bit nicer. So I just wanted to try that and see how that worked. So I'm just going to keep going. I might, I'm going to backstitch just a little bit when I go over that bodice, just to give it a little bit more security. So right where the body started, I just backstitched a little bit to give it a little bit more stability there. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep on going. I'm not going to stop. Let's turn it just a smidge though. Okay, and keep doing 5/8 inch. So this is the part that's going to be going over the arm. Now I have to think about this, because yeah, that's right. That's what I want to do. Okay, I was for some reason thinking it might turn it around, but it didn't. Okay. Looks like I'm getting a little bit more than 5/8 inch, so I'm gonna be careful with that. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm coming up again on the bodice. So right where I feel, you can feel it. So right where I feel that, I'm gonna go ahead and go over it. Ah, it wants to eat my fabric. And then I'm gonna back stitch. Let's see if it'll do it. I don't know if oh, it's gonna give me a problem. All right, let me fix this. I'll be right back. Okay, I got that unstuck. I don't know what the problem was, but it came out just fine. So I'm going to just go ahead and try again and see what happens. I do need to back stitch though because I stopped and started again. So, okay, here I come again over this. I'm gonna back stitch. I'm gonna keep moving forward. Maybe, gosh, it's giving me such a problem right there. Okay, here we go. So now we're on the other side of the bodice. Make sure that your fabric underneath is nice and flat, and I'm going to do the same on the top. And just keep on going. I'm going to put my needle down and straighten that out. Continue to straighten and flatten. These are really long. Okay, I'm almost to the end of the bodice part again, and it's right here. I can feel it with my fingers. I'm just going to back stitch once I get there, just to give it more stability there. I'm over it right now. Okay, and then I'm going to keep sewing. So keep going over the second arm. And see what happens. It's kind of hard to do. Oh, see, it's kind of giving me a hassle already. It's kind of hard to go over just a single layer of fabric, and it doesn't feel right. I don't know what's happening, but we'll see. Especially in knit fabric, I think it's kind of bunching up underneath. Okay. Keep it going. Okay, and here I am. I'm almost to the point where I started, which is right here. So I'm just going to continue to go, and hopefully I will meet right up with it. And I did, so I'm just going to back stitch there, secure my stitch. I'm done sewing all the way around. Okay, so here we have it all sewn once around. So it's sewn, the collar is now sewn onto the bodice. It's still on the inside, so let's pull it out, flip it around, both sides and the sides. And then this is what it will look like before we do another time around. So this is what it looks like before we do another time around. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and finish it now and make the casing that our elastic will go through. And to do that, we also need to get our arms folded over as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tape, a little guide as where to fold it over. So we want it to match what we just sewed. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick that tape on right on the inside edge on the wrong side of the fabric. So it's from bodice to bodice, so just around the arm until you hit the bodice again, which there's the bodice right there. So I'm just gonna stop and pull it off and peel off that paper and then fold it over, like I said, to where you sewed that seam will be your guide. So we will fold that over to there. And it's going to match what we did, except that might be a little off right there. See if we can make it work here. Gosh, it's giving me. Okay. And then come over here to this side and do the same thing. We're just folding it over to where we sewed it. you flip it over, you just gotta make sure it's kind of smooth there. It's kind of given. Okay, so there I have that. See how that's doing that? You want to make sure that you're not doing that. Okay, so I'm gonna lift it up and stretch it just a touch. Okay, much better. Okay, so now we are gonna go around the whole thing again, and we're gonna go down about a 1/2 inch around the top. Now, you'll just want to make sure that this is the inside part, and this is how it meets right here. It might be helpful if you just pressed it before you started. Maybe, you know, just press it down so that you're not, so because you don't want this, when you're sewing, you don't want this to pop up like this. You know, you don't want the back side to pop up and then you'll see it. So you just want to make sure that you're getting it as close to that as you can instead of having that come forward. I hope that makes sense. So just, you might want to iron it, that might help. I'm just going to make sure that I'm pulling it as the best that I can so that it's down. Okay, so I'm going to start, I like to start at the bodice. It just, I don't know why, it just gives me a anchor. So I'm going to go ahead and start right there where the bodice meets the ruffle. And this time I'm going to be sewing with the right side up with the ruffle showing again. And I'm going to go down about a 1/2 inch. And we will start, and once again I'm going to do the straight stitch. Where's my bodice? Okay, it's right there, so I need to come up a little bit because I like to start there at the bodice. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I'm kind of pulling this back side down, which is just like pulling, you know, this bodice part down so it's not sticking up. And then we will straight stitch. I'm going to go ahead and back stitch. Now this is, what we're doing is making the, we're making the casing for the elastic to go through. Okay. And if I get to a point where the fabric is being janky like that, I'm going to lift up put my needle down and lift up. And then I'm going to kind of reset and make sure I'm pulling this down so that I don't have that back side coming up again. Okay, so we will go all the way around. It's gonna take me forever if I have to keep lifting up the foot, but just to smooth it out. You may not want to because it really doesn't matter, but I just hate to have those in there. Okay, I'm coming to that other little section, and now when it gets to the arm section, that's gonna go right. That's okay. When you get to the arm section, you just want to make sure that you're catching it. So make sure you're feeling kind of where it is so you know that it's catching, okay? Okay. Okay, I kind of backstitched over that little bodice part again. I don't know why I like to do that, but I do. So, okay. So now we're to the arm part, and I just want to, I know that I can feel that my fabric is right here, so I just want to make sure that I'm going to catch that, but continue to do the 1/2 inch there. I'm still catching, so 1/2 inch, that's good. If you don't catch it, you'll kind of have a hole in that casing, and that's really not a big deal either because you can fix it, but it's just nice not to have to. So just kind of pay attention, making sure that you can catch that. Okay, so now we are starting on the bodices right here again, and we're going to keep going. Making sure that we're pulling this bottom part down again so it's not showing so much. And then kind of let that get away from me. Why did I do that? See, that's what happens if you're not paying attention. This fabric is kind of pulling this way. You need to keep it down, making sure that you keep it down so that it's right where it needs to be. I don't know how to explain that, but because it's kind of hanging, it can kind of tend to come this way. So you just want to make sure you have it, I guess parallel would be a good way maybe. Just squared up. Okay, so I'm gonna have a little bit of goop there, that's okay, I'm not too worried. This fabric really tends to want to move a lot, bunch up a lot. Okay, I just have one more arm to shoulder kind of area to go through. Okay, I'm counting on some of those little wrinkles to not show, so I'm hoping this will be a good test. Oh, one other thing I forgot to tell you, and I'm so happy that I remembered because it's so like me not to remember. I'm going to stick a little pin about right here, about an inch before, well, half inch, let's go half inch before I get to the bodice again on that other side where I started, because you need a hole to put the elastic through. So I'm going to put a pin there to remind me to stop sewing so I don't sew it shut, because that's where I'm going to start feeding the elastic through, okay? So you want to leave a little bit of that open because you're going to go inside there, okay? Oh, so glad I remembered that. Okay, so now I'm on the shoulder. I'm just making sure I'm catching that in there. Still doing about a half an inch down. And I'm almost to that pin. And then we'll stop. And I'm going to back stitch. And then stop. Okay? So okay. So this is what it looks like. Now, as you can see, I have a couple spots where, let's show this up close so you can see there's a couple bunches right there. That is, it's not gonna, there's a big one right there. That's where I lost focus on what I was doing. So that's because I didn't have this collar kind of moved down, but it's gonna have elastic in it and it's all gonna bunch and you're not gonna see it. So if that happens to you, do not stress it. It's not a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna take my 20-inch elastic. This is a 1/4 inch thick or wide. And I'm gonna thread it through my threader. Now, if you don't have the threader, this is the time that you would just put your little safety pin on the bottom, on the end there. And we are going to find my opening, which is right here. And we're not going in this hole. We're not going in that hole. We're going in this hole. Okay, so we're going in the hole where the shoulder, where we made it on the shoulder, on the arm part. That's the hole we're gonna go in. Because that one goes all the way around. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and pull this through. Now, another thing I like to do, because I've been known to pull them all the way through, is I like to secure my elastic. Once I get it started, I like to secure it on one end so that I don't pull it all the way through. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick a pin in there so that I don't pull it all the way through. And I'm just gonna go ahead and continue to feed it through. And you can do a little bit smaller if you want to on that, but I like having it roomy so that I can just easily get that elastic through and it doesn't give me a hassle. So it's up to you. But so I did 5/8 of an inch. You can do 1/2 inch. You can do just barely enough to get the elastic through if you want, but I like to not struggle, so. And I'm going to come back out where I started, which is right here. I'm all the way around. So I'm coming back out here. I'm going to pull it and kind of feed it around so that the ruffle. And I gave for about an inch overlap for the end, so the 20 inches allows for that. So I'm pulling it all the way through. And now I have this secured, so I'm holding on to that so it doesn't pull through. Okay, and then I'm going to unthread that. And here we have it. So now what you want to do is make sure that they are not twisted, and I don't have a really good way to do that, but just make sure that it's laying flat. And then you're going to make sure it's laying flat. It's really not a big deal if it's twisted, but it's better not to have it twisted. And I think I have it good. Okay, so I'm going to kind of pull it through so I have more to work with. I'm going to overlap about an inch, and I'm just going to go ahead and go up and down. I'm going to do two little sections like this. I'm going to go this way. I don't know that there's a wrong or a right. I'm going to zigzag. And some of you people who sew more than I do or are professionals, you'll probably know better than me. But I'm just going to go back and forth a couple times. And then I'm going to do it again, just a little bit down from there. But just get it nice and secure. And then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to pull it down just a little bit more and do it right there again, so that I have a double security. And do the same thing, zigzag up and back a few times. Oh, come on. Oh gosh, I went way too far. Might end up with a knot, but that's okay too. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so I have both of those secured. I'm gonna just trim that little extra quite a bit. And okay, I'm gonna trim these off. If I haven't, oh, I did already. Did I? There's one more, I think. Okay, now, oh, that's the part that I drug over. Get that trimmed up. And then you need to pull it through. Put that back inside the casing, which it goes right back inside. So there it is. This is where I started. It's right in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just close that up. Okay, so I have that. You can see I have that opening. So I have the stitching here, stitching here. I'm just going to go ahead and close it on up with a straight stitch. Make sure you turn back to a straight stitch. And make sure you don't go over your elastic. And I'm going to line that right up. And I'm going to back stitch a little bit there. And then see if I can feel my, I can't. And then I want to match up right on the same line as I did before. And I'm going to back stitch. And now that's closed. I'll show you. So now it's closed. It was right here. And up, look, it looks like I didn't catch that. So I'm going to go back through on this underside, make sure I catch it. Because you don't want to leave a hole. I mean, it's not a big deal, but you really don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that real quick without going over the elastic. Okay, there we go. See, I make mistakes like that all the time, so you can feel good about yourself and your sewing that if you make mistakes as well. Okay, so now what you want to do is just make sure that the elastic is even around. You know, make sure you pull it so that it's, see, you have it really tight right here, so let's just pull it around, make sure it's kind of the same. And see, this is where I had the pucker, the bad pucker. Doesn't even matter. You won't even see it. Okay? Okay, there we go. And we are done. So there you go. There's the Reagan Sitter. You can go off the shoulder or you can go on the shoulder. All right, so here we have the Reagan outfit, totally done. Congratulations, it should be super cute. And this again is sitter size. We do have the newborn edition as well that's called the Clara. So if you want the newborn, you can find it under Clara. And make sure you join our Facebook group. And you can buy more patterns. If you're done with this and you want more patterns, please go visit our Etsy shop, Props by Posies, or you can go to our website, propsbyposies.com, and purchase from there. And we hope you enjoy many more patterns to come. Thanks for joining us.